All right. I think that did it.
Yay.
Good morning, lovelies. It's actually the afternoon, but who cares? Um, welcome to another live author interview. With me is one of my favorite fantasy authors. So I've been in a constant state of fangirling, geeking out for like the last 2 weeks. Tiana Warner, who wrote the Mermaids of Ariana Quaid trilogy. I've mentioned that on this channel and my social media a couple of times. It's basically Sapphic, Romeo and Juliet featuring killer mermaids. And now she has a new book coming out this January with the same basic premise, sort of a Romeo and Juliet Sapphic romance, but with Valkyries instead of killer mermaids.
Yes.
Welcome to the channel, Tiana.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. And just a note for when we do start getting people watching, we will be taking live questions as well as the prepared questions that I have here. So, with that being said, Ms. Warner, you went from, it's the same, it is very similar, the FF romance, the characters on two ends of the characters on two opposite ends of this war. But you went from, an urban fantasy, Atlantis mermaids thing to basically an epic fantasy with Norse mythology and the Nine Worlds. What inspired the Helheim Princess story about Valkyries and Norse mythos?
After the success of Mermaids of Ariana Quaid, I wanted to write another YA fantasy series based on some mythology that included a female enemies to lovers romance. The series did really well. And the thing is, like, if you want to be a successful author, it's a good idea to write what your readers want. So, like, there's something to be said about a passion project, but everybody wins if you write something that is exactly what your audience wants to read. So I knew my readers liked mythology-based, like a Sapphic enemies to lovers romance. So I did a lot of thinking over like number of weeks and months, and it hit me that Valkyries are perfect. Like, it's a good opportunity for a female romance. There's some fun attention already around Norse mythology and Vikings and Valkyries in some movies and TV shows. And then as far as me being the best person to write the story, I have like Icelandic and Germanic heritage, and I share some background with Sigrid, the main character. And I also ride horses and can add a lot of realism to that particular aspect. So
I noticed that as I was reading, I'm learning so much about horses in this Norse mythology book.
Yeah. So everything kind of combined into this like perfect story that followed logically from the Mermaids trilogy, where I felt like I could write it really well and my readers wanted that story. And so it just it came about naturally that way.
Yeah. Mermaids of Ariana Quaid, I think I read it won a couple of awards, didn't it?
Yes. It won some awards early on for being like a self-published series, like the Best Indie Book Award. It was like a #1 Amazon bestseller in a couple of categories. And then the comic has won awards too, like the Sequential Magazine Awards. We won 2 of those. So it has done well. And like, especially now that it's a comic too, it's getting like the book series is getting attention all over again because people are finding the comic and then moving on to
right. You're turning the novel trilogy into a graphic novel. So what's the difference of writing process from like how are you going from one to the other? Because are you drawing it too, or?
No, I'm working with April Pierce, who's a very, very talented illustrator. And they actually approached me several years ago with this idea. And I was like, yes, because I'd already been thinking about comics and like a graphic novel adaptation because I was thinking of different ways to present this story. So April asked me if I wanted to like work with them. And I was like, yes. So we started doing that a few years ago, and it's kind of like a back and forth. Like, I write the script as if almost like a movie screenplay, and then we work on that together, like turning it into page plans. And then April will get back to me with the page plans, and we'll talk about that, and then do some illustrating. And then we also have Mimi, a colorist, working on the project. So Mimi's on like as a freelancer, but it's basically between me and April. We go back and forth in that process. So like I have no artistic talent whatsoever. So it's like 100% April for the illustrating. But yeah, I work as just like a writer capacity on that one. And it's been amazing. It's been such a cool process, and just like finding this whole new audience on Webtoon and Tapas and Patreon. And then, yeah, they come and read the trilogy, and it's been like the best thing ever, the best decision.
Well, and the art is gorgeous. I'll be linking your stuff in the description of this video. Hellheim, the original trilogy novel, and the graphic novel stuff. I'm not a graphic novel reader myself, but like I've been watching that, and I'm just like, you know what? When it's all finished, I'm probably gonna have to purchase like the entire volume when I get that. And I was expecting Hellheim Princess to also be self-published, but I don't believe it is. It's traditionally published.
Yeah, it's with Entangled Publishing, which was like, yeah, so exciting. When I remember I was like standing right over there when I got the email from them with a publishing offer, and it was just like this moment in my writing career where I was like, holy crap, I'm going to be traditionally published now, because I'd been working so hard self-publishing and like doing well at self-publishing, but it's just like, it's that next level where like now my, like the Hellheim Princess is going to be at Target and stuff. And so I'm like, it's just, it's like that next level. And I'm so excited. It's killing me waiting for the release in January. It's like, come on.
Oh, it's killing you. It's killing you. Is it? Yeah. Killing your fans too.
Killing all of us.
No, and I totally sympathize, because I just got my first contract for a full-length novel to be traditionally published, and the date, get this, June 2023. So it's just like, that's great. I'm so happy for this horribly long time. God damn it. And you can't even complain.
No, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, I feel that, because it was like 2 years from the pitch to the publication date for me for this one. And I'm just dying, but it's like, it's a good thing, because you spend all that time revising it, and it's a completely different book from when I pitched it, but in the best way possible. Like, I cannot believe how good it is now. And so it's like, it's worth that wait, but it's just like, oh, I'm so excited for so long.
Yeah. What has been the biggest inspirations for your work? Has it been mythology and history, other authors, life events? Like where's your mind, basically?
I think there's like a lot of different sources for inspiration, but I think I get really inspired by really epic like movies and TV shows. Like when I see a really great one, I imagine myself in the writer's room for that. Like especially female-led ones, like Black Widow. When I saw that, I was so inspired.
No spoilers. I haven't seen it yet. I know that's terrible, but I'm so behind on everything.
I won't give any spoilers, but it's so good, and you just see that, and it's so like epic, and it's kind of like in a feminist way. It's like the action movie that women deserve, and like.
And then they killed her off. And then they killed her off.
Yeah, that's upsetting. She deserved so much better. But anyways, we won't get into that. Yeah. So yeah, epic movies, TV shows. Even like the Duffer Brothers, who wrote Stranger Things. Like when I watch Stranger Things, I imagine myself in that writer's room. And then like apart from movies and TV and books and that sort of thing, I think just like general life events, like especially YA female romance. It's like an opportunity to channel the feelings that I had at that age. So like having a crush, and then the process of realizing that it's actually a crush, and understanding your sexuality, and like trying not to embarrass yourself in front of that person, being super awkward. Like the memory of that is inspiring to channel and like write that for your readers to experience with you, and like to connect with them that way. And then real emotional experiences in general, like that sort of thing resonates with readers, and it's a way to connect with them, like love and hate and jealousy, like fury. It all makes for such a powerful moment in a story. And so to be able to channel that is, I think, like a healthy way to analyze those feelings. And yeah, it adds so much to a story.
I feel like most writers get into writing because we can't afford therapy. So we go for the next best thing, which is creating characters that are reflections of all the people and situations that we hate, and then destroying it.
Yeah, it is very interesting what comes up as you write a story that is like therapy, or that is like self-reflection. Like when I started writing Mermaids of Ariana Kwai, I didn't realize, or I didn't like admit to myself, I guess, that I was like into women. And so I wrote this story about this girl who fell in love with a mermaid. And then I finished the story and I was like, huh. A few months later, I was like, I think I'm like, I don't know yet, like queer to some capacity, but it's just like that came out without
Welcome, friend.
So yeah, it's interesting, like from a writer perspective and a reader perspective, like what resonates with you.
Yeah. Now, I myself am aromantic asexual. No romantic or sexual attraction happens for me at all. And I figured it out last year. I really should have figured it out years earlier, because I always got, even as a kid, I got so annoyed with romantic stuff. Like 80% of all romantic subplots I felt should not exist in stories, or they were tiring, or I was just like, oh great, this again. Can we wrap this up so we can get back to the part where we're fighting monsters, please? It's different when it's a queer relationship, because those don't get enough spotlight. And it's also very different when it is actually a well-written one. And you do both. So that's why I enjoy yours, but not many others. But yeah, it is interesting how you can kind of read that, you absorb that media, you can even produce it yourself, and then later after the fact you're just like, wow, I really should have pinged to this like a decade ago.
Yeah. It's true.
Speaking of, all the stories of yours that I have read feature Romeo and Juliet, enemies to lover style Sapphic romances. I'm almost afraid to ask, but is everything okay in your love life? Do you need a therapist? Do you need to talk? Or do you just like the trope?
I just like the trope. My real love life is a lot less exciting. I've never had a forbidden romance. So, but I find that like forbidden love and enemies to lovers it's like, it's so popular for a reason. Like in real life, it doesn't really happen. Like you're not gonna fall in love with someone you hate. Like it's just, but in a story, it translates to really good chemistry. Like they're destined to be enemies. They're supposed to be enemies, but then they meet and like they can't deny their attraction. So I think that is just such a good trope and I love it. And the fact that the love is forbidden adds a layer of excitement into their story.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for romantic subplots where the drama is external. Like it's not really going they are fine mostly, but like it's all the drama of the romance itself is from external forces rather internal ones. The one thing that I really love and that I personally tend to write is and again, this is the arrow ace of me saying the enemies to friends. Like there is no romance, but it's just like, you know what, this human is mine now. We're gonna be best buddies. We're gonna be together forever. Just in that way.
Yeah, I love that too. It's the same kind of plot, but it's more of a buddy flick. Like it just it adds a whole layer to the story that makes it more interesting. And then the conflict isn't just like, oh, I love them, but I'm gonna make some weird internal reason not to love them. Like
the stupidity plot, the idiot plot, that's what it's called. Or the misunderstanding that really could have been cleared up with 5 minutes of communication.
Yeah.
It's like don't get me wrong, I respect the romance genre, don't get me wrong, but there are some things that pop up in it that I'm just like, really? Why
good
is
internal
this popular?
Conflict. Yeah. It's some like good internal conflict is very hard to write, but like so many so many romance authors do it well, and that's when it's like, oh, it's just amazing, because like you know that they're going to be together, but like how are they ever going to be together? And it's like, yes,
or when the internal conflict is because of like trauma or PTSD or some mental health issue going on thing, like that's more understandable and more relatable, I think.
We've all got our baggage. So
yeah,
it's interesting to explore that.
Yeah. For anyone watching, we are also accepting questions from the chat room, so feel free to jump in whenever you wish. My next question, do you ever receive any pushback for writing lesbian fantasy romance, and what's your response to those haters?
Not to my face, or not that I know of. I know that some romance writers get like judgment for being a romance writer, but I've never experienced that personally.
Probably the sexism with it too.
Like, I feel like if somebody gets angry about someone else making a living for writing love stories, like they're just jealous, because like, yeah, I'm building a career around writing stories about women falling in love, and it's awesome. So like, I'm very proud of this platform that I've built, and I'm happy to bring more queer representation to the world. Yeah, so I don't get it, like if people are judgmental about, you know, the type of story that you write. I think they're just jealous.
Yeah, no, my mom, who is a New York Times bestselling paranormal romance author, she still gets people who are just like, oh, you're not a real author because you're just writing smut or porn or like whatever. And I'm just like, she has 60 books published under her name.
That's ridiculous.
What the heck?
Just like flash the awards in front of their face, or like the royalty check.
Oh, there you go. That I can't wait to be able to do that. I already asked that question. It's November. Do you observe NaNoWriMo? And if so, what are you writing?
Not officially, but basically every month is like that for me, because I'm
yes, someone said it. Thank you.
I don't know. I feel like I'm always pushing as hard as I can to make progress, whether it's like drafting or revising. But it so happens that I got back revision notes for my current work in progress, like right around Halloween. So I have exactly the month of November to revise this story. So that kind of counts. And I'm ahead of schedule, which I'm very excited about.
Yay, pay NaNoWriMo.
Yeah.
There you go. So I was in the research for this interview, I was checking out like your website and a little bit of your background, and I read that you have a degree in bachelor's, I believe, in computer science.
Yes.
Why would you do that to yourself? And how did you go from that to writing fantasy?
So I've wanted to be a writer for as long as I can remember, like since I was very tiny. But like as I went through high school, I was afraid of being an author as a full-time career, like that it wouldn't bring enough income. And I think that is a valid fear, like especially if you're like coming out of high school working on your first ever novel and you'd never published anything before. Like it was a valid fear to have, like, how am I going to make a living doing this?
Both of my parents are writers, and when they heard that I myself wanted to be a writer since I was like 12, they didn't discourage me per se, but they made it very, very clear that like, okay, you are probably going to have to work a second job, because guess what? Not everyone is like your mother. It's like, I think the average income for a published writer is something like $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like just from the writing income.
Yeah.
It's sad. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, it's true. So like, that's exactly what I was thinking. And so I decided to go to university to get like a career that would involve a steady paycheck, and then pursue being an author on the side. So the computer science part happened by accident. Like I went to university to get a degree in psychology, and then I realized I didn't want to be a therapist, or go on to get a PhD. So I was like, let's try a programming course, and it worked out, and then I went for it. But like, I can't say with a crystal, like, you know, without a crystal ball, whether I made the right decision, but I feel like I did, because like, if I don't know, being an author isn't like a get rich quick thing. Like you said, it's like maybe you'll make some money after a decade sort of thing. Like, so
you'll make money when you're dead.
Yeah. So I feel like pulling in a steady paycheck at a software company or whatever side job like you have as an author, that'll help you build your career and take some of the stress off. Because like I've been able to pay my bills through being like a programmer or marketing, like whatever it has been through the software company. And then you can have the freedom to write on the side. Now I work part-time at the software company because I have like book deals, which is great. But yeah, I think like that's kind of some advice for aspiring authors is like based on my experience, it's worth having a job with a steady paycheck and then working on your dream on the side. Like it's scary to rely on book royalty income. Like it's very sporadic and takes a long time to build your platform.
Yeah. No, I grew up with, my dad had the steady job, but my mom had the writer income job. So like there would be months where we were eating lobster and going out for sushi and, all these really great fancy restaurants. And then there were months where we were literally eating ramen noodles because it's just so unpredictable, or like I've got some beef with my mother's publishers. Like they will say, oh yes, we have this 6-figure wire coming in for you that should be, we'll wire it to you in March or whatever. And then she doesn't get it until like August. Oh. And it's just like I like being traditionally published and gonna have my book out. Don't get me wrong, but like some people in the publishing is just like, we do need to eat. You don't get a good product when we're actually starving. You know that, right? No? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I work in a deli.
It's good to have like a steady paycheck coming in because it is unpredictable. So yeah, that's why I know how to program.
I could never do it. When I went to college, it was ironically to get a creative writing degree because I knew I wanted to be a writer. And but like you had to take like a ridiculous amount of classes in a liberal arts college where you were also required to take classes in other areas too. And I'm just like, nope, don't have the time or the patience for that. And to my surprise, I ended up doubling in both history, which I hated in high school because it was so boring the way they taught it, and social justice. And those 2 degrees have really helped my writing, which surprised me, but like it's great for world building because if you study history and you kind of know how people work, and you study social justice so you know how oppressive systems like dystopias work, you can better recreate those in your writing. And it's funny you mentioned psychology because that's what my brother's going to school for.
Okay. Yeah, I find that like no education is wasted in that sense. Like every single, or like no life experience is wasted because everything you experience and everything you learn about, like you can put that into your books. And
you were just talking about that for your inspiration.
Yeah.
That and the Frankensteining pulling from, which is what I do too.
Yeah.
All my stories are Frankenstein stories.
Yeah. I think most authors do that. Like everything kind of inspires you in some way. So you're kind of just pulling from like, oh, I like what this author did and I like what this movie did. And like that like,
and I don't like what that movie did, so I'm going to change it.
Yes.
And it's all, every piece of great work is basically fan fiction of another great work.
Yeah.
My final question, besides Hellheim Princess, which is great, I read it myself. Kazki, if I'm mispronouncing this, I'm sorry. Kazki says, I love your books. I'm assuming she's talking to you. I'm on the 2nd Ariana Koya book now, and I've pre-ordered Hellheim Princess as well. I can't wait. I got myself an early copy so I can guarantee your money is not wasted. That it is a good read. But
thank you so much.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. What else do you have coming out in 2022? Hellheim is in January. And I think I got an email from you saying you got 2 other stuff.
Yes. So around July, I have a lesbian romance between a university student and a hot middle-aged celebrity. That's like my first contemporary romance. So that's like age gap celebrity romance. and it's called From Fan to Forever. That's the working title right now. So that is coming out in the summer. And then late August is a novella that I'm contributing to a box set. So this is like a paranormal box set with a few other lesbian romance authors. Mine is a shapeshifter romance, and I won't say the title or the plot yet, but the box set is called Eternally Hers. So those are both coming out in the summer. And then, yeah, after that will be like the sequels to the Hellheim Princess, and then more romances with Ulva Publishing. So I have a few books coming out with them. So yeah, lots going on.
Is Hellheim Princess also going to be a trilogy, or is it a different number of books in that series?
Yeah, it's planned to be a trilogy. So we're working on book 2 right now.
Gotcha. Sweet. Excellent. I can't wait for that personally. And I know I have an electronic copy of Hellheim, but nothing beats the physical. So I should probably pre-order that as well. I don't really like reading on my laptop or my phone. All right, that's all the questions that I personally have. I want to linger a little bit in case there is questions from any viewers in the live stream that they would like to ask you or me or the universe at large. Can't guarantee we'll know the answers to the questions of the universe. Besides that, but I wanted to thank you again for taking the time out of your frankly ridiculously busy schedule to chat with me on this channel. I do have a final question. Besides your own work, what is your favorite Sapphic fantasy romance?
Ooh, that is hard to pick.
Top 3.
I can't. I don't know about like fantasy romance in particular, because like I read a lot like cross genre. I kind of like bounce all over the place, and I'll even alternate between like fiction and nonfiction. But I really like oh god, how do I pick? I really like anything by Sarah Waters.
Sarah Waters, that's a new name for me.
Okay. Fingersmith was really good. That was the first one I read. And then Kate Quinn, was it The Huntress? I think that was good. I read Cinderella is Dead recently. That was good.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
Have you heard of C.L. Polk?
No.
So she has this trilogy called The Kingston Cycle. Okay. And I haven't read the third and final book. That's on my list. But basically, it's an epic fantasy, and each book is told from a different person's POV. She takes no prisoners in terms of like the social commentary, classism issues going on. But each book has a queer romance. The first one is 2 guys, and then the next 2 are a Sapphic romance. And I honestly think it might be right up your alley because it's kind of similar to the stuff that you write. Kay Young has a question for you. How do we convince ourselves it's possible to write fantasy novels? I'm so happy to see this interview. My day job sucks up a lot of my energy, but I keep going. Same.
Yeah. It's hard to balance things sometimes. It's like having 2 full-time jobs. And yeah, fantasy novels, oh man, that's why I'm venturing into contemporary romance as well, because it's like I feel like if you write all fantasy, it's just like your head would explode. It's so hard, like to all the world building and stuff. But like contemporary romance is hard in another way. Like it's hard in its own way. Like nothing's easy when it comes to writing, but it's like it's different. And so to switch between that is just like I need to give my head a break from world building for a bit. It's yeah, but I do find it fun. Like even like all the research I did for Norse mythology, like that was a lot of fun. It's just time consuming. Like it's a big project.
Yeah, no, for me personally, Kay, I'm a huge night owl. It's something of a problem actually, but insomnia comes to mind. But that's where I do the majority of my writing and researching is at night. because that's when I'm most creatively active. So usually I'll when I get home, I'll devote an hour or so after I come home from work, after I've put off my shoes and I've eaten something and I've watched a couple of silly YouTube videos. Then it's like, okay, now I can write just a little bit, just a tiny bit, even if it's like just 300 words. You have written, and that's progress. All right, that's all I have. I believe that's all they have. Thank you again, Tiana. Was there anything else that you wanted to say before we bail?
I guess not. You covered it. Thank you so much for having me. This was really cool. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And I can't wait for Hellheim to come out so I can get a physical copy to actually put on my bookshelf.
Thank you. Yeah, January 4th. It's like less than 2 months away now. Yay.
Oh my God, that's insane. It doesn't feel real. Like, when does it feel real to be when you're a writer?
I don't know. I think it's an ongoing like process of imposter syndrome. It's just some days you're like, wow, I'm doing it. And other days you're like, am I doing it though?
Like, okay, so you've won awards. So if you're still dealing with that, I feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Tiana.
Okay,
and goodbye, lovelies.
Thank you everyone for watching. Bye.
Ending broadcast.